really flies? This government shutdown has now entered its second week with over 800,000 workers being impacted. Fox News reporting that House Democrats are now planning to file a package within the next hour or so. Apparently, it will tackle 6 appropriation bills for the rest of the fiscal year. The House could vote on an end to the shutdown as early as Thursday. Meanwhile, Republican Senator Lindsey Graham warning, though, that there will never be a government spending deal that does not include funding for the wall, the cornerstone of President Trump's agenda. For reaction now, our Fox News contributor DeRoy Murdoch, National Taxpayer Union Senior Fellow Mattie Duppler. Mattie, I saw you in New York earlier. I thought you were going to be in studio with me. You did the old bait and switch.
The magic of TV, Charles.
I hear you. Speaking of bait and switch, what's going to happen when the new Congress takes over? By the way, we're going to get this offer. It's not even an olive branch. If it is, it's got a lot of thorns on it later on today.
Yeah, beautiful transition there, Charles. Well, I think it's no mistake that Nancy Pelosi walked out of that meeting in the West Wing with the president earlier this month thinking they had won on the shutdown. Now, as we get closer to Nancy Pelosi taking over a chamber of Congress, the reality starts to change a little bit. And frankly, the president has done a pretty good job over the break, really taking that bully pulpit and using it to his advantage by staying at the White House, by continuing to tweet about the wall. He has really driven the message home, whereas Pelosi, of course, has been vacationing. She hasn't been in Washington. She doesn't know whether or not her caucus will be behind this supposed proposal that's being floated by Democrats. In a couple of days, Speaker Pelosi is going to be in charge of that chamber, and that means she's going to have to govern. That's when it really becomes challenging for any concessions to be made. So I think that we'll have to watch over the next 48 hours or so what other Democrats are saying about this proposal that the Speaker is supposedly putting forward, presumed Speaker, I should say at this point. Yeah. Because there are still a lot of tricky maneuvers here that Democrats need to maneuver in order for Republicans to take any of this and pass in the Senate and ultimately for the president to sign. You
know, Nancy Pelosi is certainly not in the trenches with everyone else. You know, DeRoy, I keep asking everyone, all the experts, how this ends, and it's interesting because no one really knows. Typically, people will say, this is what's going to happen. There'll be a compromise, and the number will be here, and it will happen by X day, and we'll all live happily ever after until 6 months later when we have to do it all over again.
Yeah, I don't know what the final deal is, if any. And usually when you have people, Democrats, Republicans, they find some way of settling their differences. But the attitude towards Trump is not, gee, well, we need to work out something with him. It's, we hate the guy. He's awful. He's the worst ever. Some people say he's worse than Hitler and all this. And we have that level of animosity among the Democrats, especially the very far left of the Democrat caucus. It's going to make it very difficult for Pelosi or anybody to come to terms on this.
With Elizabeth Warren more or less throwing her hat in the ring today, officially, with the exploratory thing, and we know that the campaign begins almost immediately for the Dems. The central issue, to your point, would be hate Trump, go after Trump, impeachment, indictment, impeachment, investigation. Is there any way to get anything done under those circumstances?
I think the best thing the president can do, I generally agree with Mattie that he's done a good job of staying in Washington rather than going to Mar-a-Lago. He should have an Oval Office speech, prime time, speak to the nation and talk about how important this is, why the wall is vital, why the shutdown is happening, and basically expose the fact that Democrats have been for this until he showed up. Just in 2013, they voted for $46 billion in border security, right, including 700 miles of double fence, and Schumer voted for this, and this was just 5 years ago. The difference is Trump is in, and now all of a sudden they're against what they were for. 54 out of 54 Senate Democrats voted for that just 5 years ago. Now suddenly the wall is immoral.
Mattie, I know as a fiscal conservative, you might be actually happy with some of this gridlock in Washington. Some have suggested maybe this is the time for the grand bargain, not just $5 billion for the wall, but maybe $20 billion for the wall in return for a DACA deal and some getting rid of the loopholes on immigration. Would this be a time for some sort of really grand bargain?
I think the problem with grand bargains is normally the promises are very long and the actualization of those promises is very short. So when we look at what's on the table here, it seems evident to me that Democrats don't actually want a bargain either. If they wanted to have a bargain, they would have gone into the Oval Office and they would have negotiated about DACA, folks who are already here, young people who have been here legally since they were born here in the United States. All of those were never really on the table. For, as DeRoy said, for Democrats, the negotiation has been about the wall and they want to keep it about the wall. That's also why you see the administration talk a lot about border security, right, about technology, but other ways money could be used because they know that Americans do want border security, even if it's not in the form of a wall itself.
DeRoy Murdoch, Mattie Duppler, Happy New Year to both of you. Thank you very much.
Happy New Year, Charles. We'll see you in New York next time.
Absolutely. Hey, tech stocks getting hammered this year. 2019, could we see the reversal?